There's a pain that no one can see. It doesn't leave bruises or scars, yet it can consume your entire existence. It's the suffering that lives in your mind, the relentless worry, the crushing anxiety, the voice that tells you you're not enough. If you've ever felt trapped inside your own thoughts, drowning in emotions you can't control, or exhausted from battles no one else knows you're fighting, this message is for you. Buddhism teaches us that most of our suffering is self-created. The good news, that means we also hold the key to our own liberation. Today, we'll explore 6 transformative Buddhist teachings that can help you break free from mental anguish and rediscover the peace that's been within you all along. Let's begin this healing journey together. Teaching 1. Understand that pain and suffering are different. You've been taught to fear pain, but what if I told you pain isn't your real enemy? Here's a truth that might surprise you. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. The Buddha made a crucial distinction between these two. Pain is what happens to us, the loss of a loved one, a physical injury, a disappointment. Suffering is what we add on top through our resistance, our stories, and our refusal to accept reality. When you stub your toe, that's pain. When you spend the next hour angry at yourself for being clumsy, replaying the moment, cursing the furniture, that's suffering. The Buddha taught, pain is certain, suffering is not. When we resist what is, when we fight against reality with thoughts like, this shouldn't be happening, or why me, we create layers of suffering on top of the original pain. There's a powerful story of 2 Buddhist monks traveling together. They came to a river where a young woman stood, afraid to cross. Despite their vows not to touch women, the older monk carried her across and set her down on the other side. Hours later, the younger monk was still troubled. "How could you carry that woman?" he asked. The older monk replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story reveals how we prolong our suffering by clinging to what has already passed. The original situation ended, but the mind kept creating new suffering. So how do we stop? We begin by accepting what is, not approval, not resignation, simply acknowledgement. When you stop fighting reality, you stop creating additional suffering. You can feel pain without drowning in suffering. Teaching 2. Your emotions are not your enemies. What if the emotions you've been running from are actually trying to save you? We've been taught to fear our emotions. Sadness is weakness. Anger is dangerous. Anxiety is a disorder to be eliminated, but Buddhism offers a radically different perspective. Your emotions are messengers, not enemies. The Buddha said, holding onto anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Notice he didn't say, never feel anger. He warned against holding onto it, against letting it take root in your heart. Every emotion you experience carries information. Anxiety tells you something feels uncertain and you need to prepare or find safety. Sadness signals loss and invites you to process and heal. Even anger, when acknowledged properly, shows you where your boundaries have been crossed. The problem isn't the emotion itself, it's our relationship with it. When we suppress emotions, they don't disappear. They go underground, only to resurface more intensely later. When we become consumed by them, we lose ourselves entirely. The Buddhist approach is the middle way. Observe your emotions without attachment or aversion. Feel them fully, but don't become them. You are not your anger, you are not your sadness. You are the awareness that notices these feelings arise and fall away. Imagine sitting on a hillside watching clouds pass by. Some clouds are dark and heavy, others light and wispy. You don't chase after the pleasant clouds or run from the stormy ones. You simply watch them move across the sky, knowing each one will eventually pass. Treat your emotions the same way. Welcome them, listen to their message, and then let them move through you like weather patterns across an open sky. When you stop fighting your emotions, you stop creating suffering. You find that you can hold space for any feeling without being destroyed by it. Teaching 3. Release your attachment to outcomes. Your need to control everything is the very thing destroying your peace. We suffer because we are constantly grasping for things to be different, for people to behave as we want, for outcomes to match our expectations. We hold on so tightly that our hands bleed, yet we refuse to let go. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of all suffering, not desire itself, but our clinging to how things must be. We attach to relationships, to ideas of success, to versions of ourselves that no longer exist. Think about a time you desperately wanted something, a job, a relationship, a specific outcome. The wanting consumed you, didn't it? Every setback felt like a catastrophe. When you didn't get it, you suffered. But here's the twist. Even when you did get it, the peace was temporary before new desires arose. This is called the hedonic treadmill. We're always chasing the next thing, believing it will finally make us happy. But happiness based on external conditions is inherently unstable because those conditions are always changing. Buddhism teaches us to hold everything lightly. Appreciate what you have without clinging to it. Work toward goals without making your worth dependent on achieving them. Love people deeply while accepting they may not stay forever. A Zen master once showed his students a beautiful cup. "I love this cup," he said, "but to me, it's already broken. I enjoy it, I use it, I appreciate its beauty. But I know that one day it will slip from someone's hands or a shelf will collapse. So I treasure each moment I have with it, and when it breaks, I won't suffer because I've already accepted its impermanence." This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop suffering because things don't go your way. You develop what Buddhists call non-attachment, full engagement with life without desperate clinging. Practice this when you notice yourself anxiously trying to control a situation. Pause and ask, what would happen if I let go? What am I really afraid of? Often, you'll find the fear is worse than the reality. Release your grip, trust the process, find peace in the uncertainty. Teaching 4. Stop identifying with your thoughts. The voice in your head isn't you, and realizing this changes everything. Most people believe they are their thoughts. When the mind says, "I'm worthless," they believe it. When it screams, "Something terrible will happen," they accept it as truth. But here's what Buddhism reveals: you are not the thinker of your thoughts. Thoughts arise automatically, constantly, often randomly. You didn't consciously choose to think most of what passes through your mind today. Thoughts appear like bubbles rising to the surface of water, spontaneous, uncontrolled, temporary. The Buddha taught, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. But notice the subtlety. We create our experience by believing and identifying with thoughts, not because thoughts themselves are true. Here's a transformative practice. Next time a negative thought arises, instead of thinking, "I am anxious," try thinking, "There is anxiety present," or "The mind is producing anxious thoughts." Notice the shift. You've created space between yourself and the thought. You are not the thought. You are the awareness witnessing the thought. This distinction is liberation itself. Picture your mind as a radio playing different stations. Sometimes it plays Worry FM, sometimes Nostalgia AM, sometimes Fantasy XM. You don't have to believe every station or stay tuned to the ones that cause suffering. You can observe the programming without becoming it. A student once asked a Buddhist teacher, "How do I stop negative thoughts?" The teacher replied, "Why would you try to stop them? Let them come, let them go. Just don't serve them tea and invite them to stay." When you stop identifying with every thought, you discover vast spaciousness within. Thoughts lose their power to control you. You realize you've been suffering not from reality, but from believing the stories your mind tells about reality. Remember, you are the sky, not the weather. Storms may pass through, but they cannot damage what you truly are. Teaching 5. Embrace the truth of interconnection. Your suffering feels so personal, so isolating, but what if it's actually connecting you to everyone? When we suffer, we feel desperately alone. We believe no one understands, that our pain is unique, that we are somehow broken in ways others aren't. This isolation intensifies our suffering exponentially. But Buddhism teaches us something profound. We are all interconnected. Your pain is humanity's pain. Your struggle is shared by billions. The Buddha said, "In the sky, there is no distinction of east and west. People create distinctions in their own minds and then believe them to be true. We create artificial separation through our thoughts. We build walls with ideas like, my problems are worse, or no one could understand what I'm going through. But the truth is, every human experiences fear, loss, disappointment, and uncertainty. The details differ, but the fundamental emotions unite us. This understanding is deeply healing. When you realize you're not alone in your suffering, when you recognize that what you feel is part of the shared human experience, something shifts. Compassion arises, first for yourself, then for others. There's a Buddhist practice called Tonglen, where you breathe in the suffering of others and breathe out relief and compassion. It sounds counterintuitive, but practitioners report it transforms their relationship with pain. By acknowledging that others suffer too, your own suffering feels less isolating and more manageable. Think about this. Right now, as you hear these words, millions of people across the world are experiencing similar emotions. Someone is anxious about their future. Someone is grieving a loss. Someone is doubting their worth. You are part of a vast web of consciousness, all experiencing the full spectrum of human emotion. When you understand interconnection, you stop taking everything so personally. You realize that suffering isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that you're fully human. This perspective births compassion. When you're kind to yourself in your suffering, you're being kind to all beings who suffer. When you find peace within yourself, you contribute to peace in the world. Your healing is never just for you. It ripples outward, touching everyone you encounter. Teaching 6. Practice loving kindness toward yourself. You'd never speak to someone you love the way you speak to yourself, and that needs to change. Perhaps the most revolutionary Buddhist teaching for modern people is this: you must learn to love yourself. Not in a narcissistic, self-absorbed way, but with genuine compassion, kindness, and acceptance. Most of us carry a harsh inner critic that judges, condemns, and attacks us relentlessly. We are our own worst enemies. The Buddha taught metta, or loving kindness, beginning always with oneself. He said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. This isn't optional or indulgent, it's essential. When you're constantly at war with yourself, criticizing every mistake, punishing yourself for perceived failures, you create a hostile internal environment. How can you find peace when your own mind is a battlefield? The practice of metta begins simply. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. At first, this might feel awkward or false. Your inner critic might scoff, but persistence changes everything. Over time, these words soften the heart and create space for genuine self-compassion. Think of how you treat a good friend when they're struggling. You offer comfort, understanding, and encouragement. You remind them of their strengths. You don't berate them for their weaknesses. Why not offer yourself the same kindness? A Buddhist teacher once said, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. You cannot sustainably pour from an empty cup. You cannot genuinely love others if you harbor hatred toward yourself. Self-compassion isn't self-pity or making excuses. It's acknowledging your humanity, accepting your imperfections, and choosing kindness over cruelty in your self-talk. When you fall, self-compassion helps you get up without shame. When you fail, it reminds you that all humans fail. When you hurt, it holds space for the pain without adding judgment. The irony is that people who practice self-compassion actually become more motivated and resilient, not less. When you're not afraid of your own harsh judgment, you're more willing to take risks and grow. You've now encountered 6 powerful Buddhist teachings that can transform your relationship with suffering. Understand that pain and suffering are different. Stop resisting reality. Recognize emotions as messengers, not enemies. Observe without becoming. Release attachment to outcomes. Hold everything lightly. Stop identifying with your thoughts. You are the awareness, not the thinking. Embrace interconnection. Your suffering connects you to all beings. Practice loving kindness toward yourself. you deserve your own compassion. These aren't just ideas to understand intellectually, they're practices to embody daily. The mind that has created your suffering can be trained to create peace instead, with patience, with practice, with compassion for yourself along the way. You can break free from mental anguish and discover the calm that exists beneath the storm. Your liberation isn't somewhere in the distant future. It begins right now, in this moment, with the choice to relate to your experience differently. If this message has resonated with you, share it with someone who might need these teachings. Let's create ripples of peace and understanding in a world that desperately needs both. If these teachings helped you, like, subscribe, and share this video, so others may also find clarity and calm. Until next time, stay mindful, stay peaceful, and may each moment bring you closer to inner freedom. Dove sparkles.